Uh. Where's AI getting this, man? How you doing, folks? It's the Doug Wright Show. Oh, I like that. You know, AI is good for something. Let me bring it down. Bam. That's how you do that. Good morning, Doug Rice. Get up. It's 8 a.m. What are you gonna do? It's Thursday. Come on. It's the 7th of December. It's 2023, and you're here early morning looking at me, and I'm excited. Yes, I am. I am excited, folks, because I get to bring this to you every single morning. As the day is dawning, you're on your way out, but I'm on my way in. All I can tell you, folks, bring it in. Bring it in, Negroes. Bring it in, Negroes, because today we're going to talk about the Holocaust. Oh, no, not that Holocaust. No, we're going to talk about a different Holocaust today. We're going to talk about one that has an interest to Negroes. And as I begin the show, I invite you to like, subscribe, and share, and all the things you see down there. Do it. Get to it, because this one, I don't know if I can get through it. Oh, I'm going to get through this. So what do we got? What do we got? We got mayhem going global. Huh? Fueled by leprosy, fueled by leprous individuals claiming to be superior. I've come to that conclusion, and they think we're inferior. But I digress. Let me go into this. The Holocaust. The Holocaust, the Black Holocaust. How were Jews involved? You know, I'm done with small hat talk. I'm done with, the whole, the symphony of trying to be as colloquially as you can be. I know I'm going to ask the question simply. What are their roles? What did they do? Well, we're going to talk about the Jew today and their role in the Holocaust involving Negroes. And we're going to get real specific, and I'm going to tell you why we're doing this show, because I've had some say without, any equivocation that the Jewish folks had nothing to do with the sale of the Negro nation. I've had people actually exclaim that. I've had people talk to me about where are the ships, and now today I'm going to shut their lips. So, as this knowledge drips, what I'd like you to do, if you can see your way through, is look down below, and if you feel you like the show, go to those links and give ever so. Thanks so much for coming to the Doug Rice Show. We're going to get into this, folks. Now, let's set aside all jokes. This publication, and let me bring it to the fore because I know how to get back. All right, so this is the publication that we are reviewing, first and foremost. So this is The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, and this is volume 1. This is from the Nation of Islam. Now, you guys know I am not an Islamist. I am not, I've not been a Muslim. I've not, taken any kind of vow, and I kind of look at how things are going in their realm of reality, and I don't know how they get through it, but they do. So, Minister Farrakhan, whom I do respect greatly, was put in great harm's way regarding this publication, and they poisoned him for printing this. So you know what he did? He printed 2 more volumes. He knew he couldn't miss. Well, we're going to go through the construction of the Jew and their itemized individual association with profiting and selling the Negro nation. That's right, folks. I'm on a roll like butter. Boom. All right, here we go. I'm back. Thanks again for tuning in. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I hope you guys are ready for what we're about to give you. All right, here we go, the Holocaust. So this is an interesting informational piece of PDF, let me tell you, and there's a whole lot left. But this particular section is going to give us a direct connection between what's said and what's prescribed, what the truth is, and who has lied. All right? All right, here we go, folks, the Holocaust. Black men, women, and children fell victim by the tens of millions to the slave traders and slave makers. As chattel, the Negro, the African, was unaccounted for in many a transaction and hidden within a substantial smuggling commerce. Given the evidence presented of the mercantile capabilities of the Jews and their concurrent indifference to African humanity, one might fairly assert that they are responsible for innumerable deaths and murders. One can take that assumption to heart. Certainly, one could justifiably argue that in places such as Suriname, Curaçao, Barbados, and other slave depots under their control, majority of the murders of Black hostages were committed by Jews and their agents. Now, if this is too delicate for your ears, leave. Because this is not a place where Negroes are deceived. So I know this is going to be hard for some of you to swallow. For those of you that can't leave and the others can follow. To quantify, however, is a most difficult proposition. Tens of millions suffered and died. How many tens of many millions is the question? Now let's take a close look at this. Let's take a close look at this. What do we see here, folks? You want to play games with me today? Because ain't no jokes. What's happening? What's going on? See the bottom name now? Huh? Do I need to hold up? Let me see if I gotta do something here. Hold on, because I definitely don't need that in the way. You see that right there, folks? What more can I say? The undersigned J.F. Moses. Now, let me just tell you, Moses ain't a brother, okay? He's another. The undersigned has just arrived in Lumpkin from Virginia with a likely lot of Negroes, about 40 in number, embracing every shade and variety. He has seamstresses, chambermaids, field hands, and doubts not that he is able to fill the bill of any who may want to buy. He has sold over 200 Negroes. Do you understand what your name is? Do you know what that connotates? Do you know what the name Negro really makes? It makes you royalty. And they made sure to make sure you were named Negro when you endure the sale of yourselves. You understand? He has sold over 200 Negroes. That's a brag. Boy, I tell you. In this section, mostly in this country, and flatters himself, really, that he has so far given satisfaction to his purchasers. Being a regular trader to this market, he has nothing to gain by misrepresentation and will, therefore, warrant every, what's that? Negro sold to come up to the bill squarely and completely. Give him a call at his mart. J.F. Moses, Lumpkin, Georgia, November 14th, 1859. Well. We do have a story to tell, don't we? Let me move this back where it needs to be. All right, so Philip D. Curtin, author of The Atlantic Slave Trade, traced the most circulated slave importation figure of 15 million. You with me? You with me? I hope so. Back to a most unlikely source, an American publicist of the 1860s. There are the references. Of the trail of miscalculations, Curtin says, on closer examination, the vast consensus turns out to be nothing but a vast inertia, as historians have copied over and over again the flimsy results of the unsubstantial guesswork. Other writers of English language textbooks on the history of the slave trade estimate in percentages the rate of the lost African life in the trades. Now, let's look at this. Dear God. All right, so Robert Rotberg sets the loss of life during the maritime leg of the journey into slavery at 25 to 33%. Did you hear me? But, where are the ships? There's no proof. Some of you Negroes are simply aloof. You know that. Some of y'all trip me out. I hear it from you. No slave trade. All right. So there were Negroes here before they brought us here. Do you like that? Is that what you want to hear? Good. But the transatlantic slave trade happened. Okay? Let's see this. J.D. Harris said it's about 1/6. J.D. Fagg said it's about 1/6. Donald L. Wagner says mortality reached about 12% in French ships, contrasted with the 17% in Dutch and British ships. Portuguese losses in the early centuries ran about 15%. This is loss, attrition, But when pressure from the 19th century abolitionists forced the slave traders to take evasive actions, the casualty rate rose up to 25 to 30% loss. You know what loss means? Do you know what that means? It's not like, you got some produce and, you let it sit out on the slat too long and eventually you had 340 pieces of produce and now you only got 280. That's not the loss they're talking about. Let me tell you something, folks. I'm going to do this because I used to help people get jobs out here. I used to work for a place called One Step Closer. That's where I used to work for a place called One Step Closer out here in Phoenix, Arizona. I think they're still around. I worked for a guy named Les Boynton. Nice guy. He helped people out. He gave them help. We needed help. My wife and I needed help. We helped us. Okay. But I eventually worked there and helped people get jobs. And I told Negroes on the side, because, you had to couldn't be vocal about being Negro-centric. And I would give them a factoid that would roll through their minds as they went out every day and got a goddamn job. And you know what? Check my math, because everything I do is public. Now, listen, I would tell them, do you understand? Because some of them, they're angry about what they had to do in getting a job, a lot of humility involved. And I would tell them that there's no reason to have a chip on your shoulder. There's no reason to be angry, upset about anything, because you are a walking miracle. And I tell you this, Negroes, as I told them, I tell you, you and I and every one of us are a walking Negro, because every kind of condition that you could put a condition on, whereas a person could not come into existence, that was put on you, and you defied the odds and made it. Despite the 25% loss, the attrition, despite the fact that they've done everything they can to make certain you understand that at any given moment you can lose your Negro life. And somehow through all the numbers and percentages and loss and trips and all the things that, could have happened and slipped up, you are here. You managed to exist and you managed to not be marked off the list. So walk about this country with that on your mind. And you may inevitably find that the margins of your existence were met with some resistance, and still with insistence, you are here. Hold that thought to yourselves, dear Negroes, because the odds were not in your favor. All right, let me get back to the numbers. You don't believe me? Check it out. Weistergaard's archival survey of the Danish slave trade, for example, showed that individual voyages between 1698 and 1733 had mortality rates as low as 10% and as high as 55%. 55%, you lose half your stock. You know what that means? Negroes dropped and they went over the side of the ships. Think about that. Curtin's exhaustive review of the mortality data, including the assumptions above, brings him to this assertion. The cost of the slave trade in human life was many times the number of slaves landed in the Americas. Every slave landed alive. Other people died in warfare along the bush paths leading to the coast awaiting shipment, or in the crowded and unsanitary conditions of the Middle Passage. Once in the New World, still others died on entering a new diseased environment. You are a miracle. Your very existence is a miracle, Negro. You never forget that. And think about the steps they took to make sure you didn't exist. Think about that. Everything was against you being here, and it still continues. It is generally agreed that the oft-repeated figure of 15 million being the publicist is conservative. But even if that figure were true, Curtin's claim that many times that number of Africans killed would place the number closer to 100 million murder victims. I didn't know. Did you read that? I read it. It's there. The actual figures are staggering. And as key operatives in the enterprise, Jews, I'll say it with gravitas, Jews have carved themselves a monumental culpability in slavery and the Holocaust. Jews have carved for themselves a monumental culpability, responsibility, ownership in slavery and the Black Negro Holocaust. This is what we're talking about today, folks. I don't care if it doesn't tickle your ears. You better bring yourself near, because this is info you need to hear. Here we go, the count. Here we go. Here's the count. Like, subscribe, share. You like us? Look down there. The count. To what extent Jews used the African is a difficult determination to make. Dr. Bertram Korn reasons. Bertram Korn. Here we go. Jews who were more firmly established in a business or professional career, as well as in their family relationships, had every reason to become slave owners, although, of course, some socially prominent families took pride in employing white servants in their homes. Gotcha. The racism runs through. Colonial Jews were rarely to be found in the ranks of the impoverished, being securely ensconced in the middle class. Historian Jacob Marcus counts slaves in his description of the Jewish households. Let's read. Merchants who were prosperous owned their own homes, occasionally some farm or uncultivated lands, perhaps some urban real estate, and a slave or a bondservant. Most Jewish shopkeepers and merchants were comfortable. That is to say, they made a good living and lived comfortably. Many of them owned their own homes, while practically all had at least one domestic slave and could afford to lose 20 shillings at cards once a week at the club. What? They at the club once a week? What? Marcus again. Jews who had come up in the world patterned themselves most carefully on their cultured and often wealthier Christian compatriots. Their well-appointed homes boasted silver, fine linens, expensive glassware, good cutlery, rugs, carpets. Oh, and slaves to where we got the bottom. So they loved the silver and the fine linens, and of course they boasted about the expensive glassware, good stuff there, good cutlery, the good knives, rugs, carpets. And by the way, we also got a few slaves that'll wait upon you here now. This is how common our plight was. Now, keep in mind, folks, I caveat all of this with the fact that we brought this on ourselves. Yeah, slow you down a little bit, huh? Look what we did to us. Yeah, that's right. If truth be told, and we have to speak truth, and we do, we have to confess the sins of our ancestors. That's part of the deal. And that's what we do. We did this, but they went a little bit overboard, and that's why they have a reckoning coming. It's on the way. It's almost here. So let's just keep going. All right. So the possession of one or two house servants, says Henry Feingold. What are they mad at? What are they mad at Louis Farrakhan for? What are they mad at Louis Farrakhan for writing what they themselves have said? I just don't understand that. Maybe it's going over my head. Feingold said that the possession of one or two house servants was fairly widespread. As many as a quarter of the South's Jews may have fallen into this category, which was slightly above that of other Southern merchants. Slave ownership among Jews was an indication of wealth and social status. Roberta Strauss Fauerlicht counts Jews as having an even greater role in slavery. Roberta Strauss Fauerlicht. Okay. Just as a disproportionately large number of Jews were slave owners, a disproportionately large number of Jewish merchants sold slaves as they would any other goods. Several of these merchants were prominent in their communities, an acting rabbi, the president of a congregation. And some of you have the nerve to support the Israel nation. Some of you really, really have the nerve to support the state of Israel. You know what? You're lucky I can't say it. All right. To quantify these assertions of inordinate Jewish slaveholding and dealing could not be accurately done until the census of 1820. Listen carefully. America's first attempt to count and segment her population by ethnic origin. It must be stressed that the figures represent only what the Jewish population would admit to. And as taxable commodities, slave holdings would likely be underreported. Yes, they cheated on their reporting because, well, the brisk slave smuggling trade operated by the Jews of the Caribbean after the ban on the legal trade makes it difficult to assign definitive numbers to their slave commerce. Also, the high turnover wholesale trade in which Jews were numerous would not have identified Jews as owners of the black stock temporarily in their hands. Ira Rosenwake analyzed the 1820 data that indicates the number of domestic slaves held by Jews. What's wrong? Y'all scared of that word? You know what? This getting me a little perturbed. I keep hearing people not want to say that word. Why? I'll say small hats if you want me to, but I think that's more of an insult. They are Jews. They are Jewish, like Jews. They are not the jewels of God. They are pretenders. They are converts. They are imposters. They are the Synagogue of Satan. There. Nothing happened. I'll say it all day. The Jewish population in 1820 is concentrated in a few principal towns. In particular, the 5 centers in which then had functioning congregations. Here they are: New York, Philadelphia, Charleston, Richmond, and Savannah. In Charleston, Richmond, and Savannah, the large majority, over 3/4 of the Jewish households, contained one or more slaves. They owned you Negroes. You still supporting Israel? Remember, the Arabs, Palestinians, sold you to the Jews. Still supporting Palestine? What the hell is on your Negro mind? Okay, I'll continue. Baltimore, 1/5. Jewish households contain more than one slave. In Baltimore, only 1 out of 3 households were slaveholding. In New York, 1 out of 18. Among the slaveholding households, the median number of slaves owned ranged from 5 in Savannah to 1 in New York. They owned Negroes. They owned you. They owned you, and you grin and cheese in their goddamned faces. It just pisses me off. You friends? Rosenweg, whose Jewish population studies have been published in the major Jewish historical journals. I mean, you can be civil. We can be civil, but don't grin and cheese in my face, please. Don't do that. We cool, but I'm not a fucking fool. Rosenweg, whose Jewish population studies have been published in the major Jewish historical journals, has recently analyzed the 1971 population studies of Lee Soltow. Rosenweg does not dispute Soltow's startling findings. Startling! Soltow estimates that 36% of the 625,000 families in the South in 1830 were slaveholders. Mickey Fickies. Of the 322 household heads identified in the present study as Jewish residents of the same states, at this enumeration, a considerable larger portion, 75% were owners of 1 or more slaves. That means they owned Negroes, your kin. You wonder why I keep saying bring it in, huh? Interesting. In Charleston, Richmond, and Savannah, he continues, the overwhelming proportion, over 4/5 of the Jewish household, contained 1 or more slaves. In New Orleans, over 3/5 were slaveholders. In Baltimore, less than 1/5. Nationwide, probably close to 2/5 of the Jewish families of 1820 owned Negroes. And I see some of you, even some of you that have been put in office, got the nerve to support these individuals. And if you aren't informed, you'll go further and support Palestine, which is chock full of Arabs who don't mind selling a Negro or 2 even today. You understand me? So we ain't got no friends. But this is interesting. All right, interesting. Ira Rosenwake, Bertrand W. Korn, Malcolm Stern are among the Jewish scholars who have studied American Jewish population data. All of their results confirm the pervasive involvement of Jews in black slavery. Let me say it again. Ira Rosenwake, that's not Louis Farrakhan, not close. Bertram W. Korn. No. Malcolm Stern, Jewish scholars. Not Farrakhan. These guys, Jews, scholars. Here's what they said. All of their results, as they are studiers of American Jewish population data, and their results confirm the pervasive, the deeply entrenched involvement of Jews in what? Negro slavery. Fuck that black. And yet you grin and cheese in their goddamned faces. Isn't that something? You understand what's going on? I mean, open your eyes. All right, so let's check it out. Dr. Korn analyzes the available census. Yeah, it's going to be a show. What? Dr. Korn analyzes the available census data. Here we go. Listen to this and enjoy the show. In the 1820 manuscript census records of the New Orleans, it has been possible to identify only 6 Jews. Wow. 6. Each of those owned at least 1 slave, and the 6 owned 23 slaves altogether. 6 Jews in New Orleans, and between the 6, they owned 23 Negroes. By 1830, 22 Jews can be identified in the census returns. A very low number, since there were about 66 Jews in the area when the newly established congregation published its list of contributors in 1828. Although some of the donors were not permanent residents. More than a half of these 22 did not own slaves, but 10 of them owned a total of 75 slaves. Obviously, some of the newly arrived Jewish settlers could not afford to own slaves. But by 1840, when 62 Jews can be identified in the census return, again, a very small number, since there must have been at least several hundred Jewish families in the community by that time, the newcomers had prospered to so great a degree that only 7 reported that they owned no slaves. The 55 identifiable Jewish slaves owners of New Orleans in 1840 from 1820, having 23 slaves, held a total of 348 Negroes in bondage, an index to growing prosperity. Yet, according to the mobile 1850 census, which lists 72 identical Jewish family heads, of 31 Jews were owners of slaves to a total of 90. Interesting. The proportion even higher in view of the fact that we can include in the figure for heads of families 19 young clerks and peddlers who lived in the homes of relatives and 14 Jewish bachelors who lived in a single boarding house. I will read every word. So, how you doing? How you doing? You all right? Y'all need some coffee or something? You need a break? What's wrong? You good? How many of you support Israel? How many of you support the state of Israel? How many of you grin and cheese and massa please all these? You know what? Look, how can you not go about your day in this country without retracting that smile on your face, I wonder? I have no idea. With this kind of knowledge, it shouldn't be a problem. Seriously. You should get the mental acuity and the relief needed to let this place go, because let me show you something, folks. There's a lot to know. This is real. Census data of Jews and black slaves. Here we go, folks. Here we go. The following tables have been published by Jewish scholars, not by Louis Farrakhan. Why'd you poison this man for pointing out your facts? Dear God, you are some creatures. I'll leave it at that. The following tables have been published by Jewish scholars who have researched and analyzed the available population data. These 1790 census figures are included because they are the only official data available, and Dr. Korn comments, listen carefully. 73 Jewish heads of household have been identified as Jewish. Of these, at least 34 owned one or more slaves, a total of 151 Negroes. This is who they owned. They owned your black asses. Do you dig it? Okay. The only large holdings of slaves were possessed by Jacob Jacobs of Charleston. Names: Abraham Cohen. Jacob owned 11. Abraham Cohen owned 21. Solomon Cohen owned 9. Esther Myers owned 11. All of the Georgetown district. Many families did not participate in the census, and still more would not have revealed their identity as slaveholders or as Jews, having emerged so recently from the era of Inquisition. Don't play with me, man. There you go. They're the numbers. Now, the numbers here, you understand, when we go into this section here, you see that word slaves, that means us. That's what that means. This is the Jewish slaveholders. You understand? They look at you. Now, I remember Giuliani Margulies demanded that Negroes support Israel, to support the state of Israel. Giuliani Margulies wondered why Negroes are not supporting the state of Israel in their wretched movement toward innocent life. I don't understand that. You know, we got this other clown, Michael Rappaport, a rancid piece of feckless trash, who spent his career pretending to be black, a wigger all damn day. And then he opens up his rancid ass, feckless, foul mouth in our direction about what he expects Negroes to support regarding Jews in the state of Israel. You know what? Kiss our goddamned asses, Michael Rappaport. Giuliani Margulies, go straight to hell. And that's what you can tell. And I mean that, bro. Who are these people? Do they not read? Maybe the Doug Rice Show is what they need. Somebody share this with Michael Rappaport, please. How dare you think it's an obligation for Negroes to support you? Seriously? For what? What the fuck do we need to support the state of Israel for as Negroes? Do I need to keep bringing you receipt and see how it goes? Yeah, I'm upset. The census of 1830 provides another official tally of the slave holdings of Jews. The chart below lists records of slave holdings of Jews in areas outside of major Jewish communities. Michael Stern published some additions and corrections to Rosenwake's analysis that includes a slave count. Fuck you. I mean that. I ain't here to preach, and I'm here to teach. I ain't a preacher, that's for sure. I ain't never said that. That's too far a reach. But I don't dig this. I don't like the expectation that they expect from the Negro nation. I don't like that, man. Next time you see a Star of David, you tell whoever's flying it to save it. It's just ridiculous. Malcolm Stern published some additions and corrections to his work. We got that. Slave count, got that. Let's see what he's doing. I'll say a little bit convoluted, but they tell you about these are the male slaves. These are free slaves, I suppose. So they give you names, the head of household. Look at the names. So remember, these are slaves male. So these numbers are male. This is a male number. This is female. This is male, female. This is male free. This is female free. This is male. This is male slave, male free, female free. Let's go. Oh, we got numbers picking up here. Jacob Abbott, Mr. Hendricks, Henry, Mr. Moyes. Oh, look at this. We still got more numbers. Isaac Henry owns 9. Am I still going? Oh, 26. The widow of Ben Jewel Sr. got 26. Wow, that's pretty good. 26 men, 16 females, I believe that says. Am I still going? Let me make sure. Yep. Slaves. Luke, here we go. Moses, Solomon, Isaac Gomez. These ain't Negroes we're talking about. Don't get in your feelings. Do not get in your feelings. Look at that. Jacob, 11, right? I think we talked about that, right? Yeah, you're going to look at all of it. You damn right. Abraham Cohen, 21 human beings, Negroes he owned. Total enslaved Africans, they got 209. So here's the 1820 census. Ooh, let's look. I love bringing receipts. I love reading a book. Let's do it. 109 households in the different areas. Total slaves, 701 slaves. Wow. Hey, free colored households. Hey, we got a few of us in there. That's cool. Let's see now. Absentee Jewish owners of slaves, 1830. Look at the names. Don't look away. Don't look away. What's wrong? You support the state of Israel, don't you? Don't you support the state of Israel? Don't you support them in everything that they do? Remember that the Palestinians is the ones that sold you. Look at the numbers. So that is an interesting look. Here we go. Let me make sure here I got this. All right. So now we're going to get into slaves in Jewish wills. Now, there's a lot to be told still. This is the Doug Rice Show, brought to you by Twidwear. You know to go to twidwear.com, get 10% off on any apparel, any purchase of Twid gear, skincare, all of that good stuff. Go there, do it, buy something, get to it. This is interesting information. Listen, folks, I'm here for Negroes. That's who I'm here for. I'm here for Negroes, man. So if you're not a Negro, go. Don't care. But we need this. Yeah, we can't miss this. This is good stuff. What we're talking about is the secret relationship between blacks and Jews and the Black Holocaust and how it ensued and their involvement and how they got paid too. And this is this section about slaves and Jewish wills, how they willed people to Jews. You seriously considering even remotely looking at a Jew the same again after this? Then please, just miss me, man. Isaac stipulated that the men and women to be free were to receive a generous supply of clothing. Jacob Cohen left money to these servants, but specified that if any of them preferred to remain in bondage, they were free to choose their own masters. The money from the sale was to be invested by municipal authorities and the interest used to buy bread for the poor on the 4th of July. Another indication, but still incomplete accounting of Jewish slave holdings are the references to slave in the wills of Jews. Professor Jacob R. Marcus assembled 229 Jewish wills from the American Jewish Archives for the period of 1789 to 1765. Of those, 33 refer to ownership and disposition of 132 Negroes, slaves, people. In many of these wills, however, the African children are not enumerated, and many refer to groups of slaves of unspecific numbers. In 19 of the 33 wills, the slaves were bequeathed to relatives to be used as they saw fit. I wish I would see a smile on your face. Wow. And in 5 of the wills, the executors were instructed to sell them. Okay. Professor Marcus adds that it is quite likely that some of the 97 remaining decedents owns the dead. Good Lord. Decedents owned slaves and lumped them together with all other types of property. This section of this volume, titled Jews of the Black Holocaust, details the slave dispensation in some of these wills. How interesting. Let's see. Remember, I did not read ahead. I rarely do. I try not to, just for you. Oh, Lord, don't do this to me now. Is he doing this to me? There we go. All right, let me make sure I didn't go ahead. I did not. Anti-Semitism. Here we go. Anti-Semitism, question mark. Before the Civil War, some Jews admittedly had been slaveholders and slave traders, and one wonders whether they skipped the passages in the Passover Haggadah that extol freedom after the torment of Egyptian bondage. No, they don't associate themselves with that because they have no association with it at all. For them, it's a story. For us, it's our history. The Ashkenazi European convert has nothing to do with the actual history of Hebrews, Negroes. Some Jewish historians have claimed that Jews only participated in slavery to defer anti-Jewish sentiment that would have resulted if they had taken a moral stand. What? What? Can you believe that kind of obfuscating excuse? They just make whatever their reason so obtuse. They say, oh, we joined in because you don't like Jews anyway, so we bought a slave or two just to say, hey, leave us alone, okay? Man, go away. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. But throughout the historical record, there appears no hint of moral indignation on the part of the Jews. There's no iota of evidence, no line in a letter, no stray remark which would lead us to believe that these Jews gave conscious support to the slave system out of fear of arousing anti-Jewish sentiment. Bullshit. How dare they? While they replace us and take our identity. The many Jewish historians concur, including Oscar I. Janowski, who believes that Jews had little to fear. One fact stands out clearly. The people of the United States have never been infected with the violent forms of European anti-Semitism. No, they're infected with anti-Negro. They're infected with a racist hate against blacks, as they call us. Yeah, they're too focused on their hatred for us due to their guilt in enslaving us and the treatment that we endured, to focus on Negroes, to focus on Jews that they rescued from World War I. They World War II. I don't understand this. You understand? So, and you wonder why. Let me tell you something. They've done the math themselves. They've said that though there is Jewish hate in the United States, the hatred of Negroes far outweighs any anti-Semitism in this country. Trust that, believe it. So that's BS. All right. Many Jewish historians concur, including Oscar J. who believes it. Right, he had a little fear. Okay, one fact stands out. Right, the very first settlers, it is true, were not wholly free of anti-Jewish prejudice. Okay, that's true. But even this milder form of intolerance generally remained dormant in the liberalization or liberalizing atmosphere of, quote unquote, the New World, their New World. Oscar Strauss wrote that when his father was peddling through the rural areas of Georgia, he was treated by the owners of the plantation with a spirit of equality that is hard to appreciate today. A host of Jewish authorities have discounted the suggestion that anti-Semitic oppression was significant in early American Jewish history. And they bring the receipts. Dr. Marcus contends that colonial Jews suffered no egregious civil or economic disabilities. They were not packed into overcrowded ghettos, nor humiliated by narrow-minded civil servants and bureaucrats. No, they weren't treated poorly. Yet they claim that they are victims, but they won't tell us why they wanted to put you in ovens. Yeah, I really want to know. Give me the reason. I'll put it on the show. Richard Tedlow reasons that perhaps the key is that neither Southern nor Northern anti-Semitism at the time had extensive institutional props. Neither was organized. Boom. Jewish author, lecturer, Julius Lester maintains that while individual Jews were subjected to anti-Semitic incidents and insult, on the whole, the Jewish community was free to pursue its life. They were left alone. They did not leave Negroes alone. David Brenner. It was a fact that many colonies had legal restrictions against Jews, but in reality, such laws were generally ignored. Why? Because they were white. That's why. Because they reminded themselves too much of themselves. Skin color is vital. It's extremely important. I need you to understand that. Lock that in your Negro mind. Everything these people tell us to ignore, make that of import, and you'll find it is important. Trust that. This is very true. Very little of the traditional anti-Jewish medieval legislation took root in British North America, and so there were fewer laws that hampered Jews. The colonies possessed no feudal heritage, developed no guilds, knew no prohibitions in the purchase of land. The only truly effective barriers were nature herself, her savage Indians, the man's own personal incapacity. The Jews could make progress here because there were no bounds to his freedom of movement, his freedom to settle where he wished and marry whom he could, unlike the Negro. Capital went further in America than in Europe, and competition was less keen. Additionally, the American Jews' strong family ties in Europe were a boon to the import and export industry in which they would engage. These are receipts, folks. Charles Stember writes that even with its reputation for bigotry and intolerance, the South has traditionally been one of the least anti-Semitic regions in the nation, and a considerable body of data suggests that it remained so until the 1940s. Roberta Strauss-Furlick's analysis concludes that anti-Semitism has been malignant in other places and other times, but in America, it has been benign or virtually non-existent. So what are we talking about here? Eric Herster maintains that during the Civil War era, there was no discrimination in public institutions for Jews. Barry E. Supple, Jews were no longer a harassed minority, and the community promised a relatively unhindered advancement to business talent. Stanley Chayet, religious liberty was never an especially great problem for the Jew in America. Almost from the beginning, he found little trouble securing religious freedom, and no colony drove him out because he was a Jew. Stop the madness. Raphael Mahler, those who laid the foundation for the largest Jewish community in the world had already attained a level of social and legal equality unprecedented in the history of the diaspora. Shut up! Max I. Demont, at the time of the Revelation, 50% of the American people were slaves or indentured servants, but the Jews were neither. They were all free. Though most were shopkeepers and craftsmen, many were manufacturers, importers, exporters, wholesalers, and slave traders. They dealt in coffee, sugar, tobacco, and molasses. They paid the same taxes non-Jews paid, and by and large suffered no more disabilities than other minorities did. And these disabilities, such as the lack of franchise in some of the colonies, did not affect their other freedoms. Anti-Semitism was almost non-existent in colonial America. They came here and prospered in the sale of Negroes. Like, subscribe, share. Jacob J. Weinstein, then too, the issue of slavery dominated American politics and offered a safety valve for latent prejudices and subconscious frustration. So our presence in this goddamned country laid the way to excuse the Jews who brought with them the rancid-ass Talmud and their practices and their beliefs about Goyim, while they quietly believed and held the putrid beliefs that they hold against those they claim are not Jews. They held that within themselves, being amongst the colonialist Anglo-Saxons. They believe Goyim are beneath them, that they can cheat them, that they don't have to treat them fairly, and they believe even less about people of color. So they literally kind of snuck their way into this country, really closed-mouthed about what they believe in their heart. And you can find what they believe in the Talmud, T-A-L-M-U-D. And if you compare that against what scriptures say, you'll find there are some vile, contemptuous, putrid, sick practices in the Talmud. So they infected this country, coming in quietly, practicing things like, I don't know, oral circumcision, quietly amongst their community. I would hope that somebody would open up the goddamned Talmud and read it so that you understand what you support over in the state of Israel. Believe me, you'll need it. There's some foul shit going on, man. All right, but it was interesting to note that the leading role played by Judah P. Benjamin in the Confederacy aroused no perceptible resentment toward the Jews in the North or South during the worst days of the Civil War and Reconstruction animosity. So listen to what that says. This Confederate, this Southern Jew, Judah P. Benjamin, and we'll talk about Judah P. Benjamin. I've read about him before. Just a straight racist piece of white feckless trash, period. Any individual that does the things that these Jews do, and especially for the Confederacy, I don't give a damn about what I say about these folks. You give me a break. Jews were not only citizens of high standing, they were also respected figures in public life and pillars of local authority. They held office and shaped political and economic policy, all while believing in the Talmud. Read it. Though there were incidents attributable to anti-Semitism, the problem was not pervasive. Jews enjoyed, by all accounts, a greater freedom to pursue their social and economic interests than at any other time and place to date, freedom even to deny the same to others. And listen carefully, folks. I'm going to stick on that Talmud for a minute. Let me tell you why. Because they consider the Talmud above the scriptures, of course, because, it's what they do. They brought their pagan ritualistic beliefs when they were converted. So all of the heathen nonsense they did, screwing children, all of the cheating people, all of the things in their Talmud. Now, understand, folks, and we read this in going over the Talmud together. You and I read this. They claim that any Jew that openly discussed the Talmud, the Talmud, and all its precepts should be put to death. Now, you need to understand this. Now, let's connect the tissue. The Talmud, the Jewish Talmud, something that the Bibi Netanyahu believes in the Talmud. They believe in Zionism. The Talmud is an abhorrently, disgustingly vile piece of work put together by an abhorrently vile community of Jews. Period. There's no take back on that. Go read it and what it says. So, we can expect during this time of development of Jewry in America, they were thoroughly entrenched in Talmudic belief and practice. And such a closed community would not reveal their true, abhorrently vile practices to the community of Gentiles who they believed were Goyim. They have permission to not treat these Anglo-Saxon white people. They don't have to treat them fairly. If they find something that's not theirs and it belongs to them, they can keep it. They can cheat them, they can lie, they can do everything they want to do as Jews who believe in the Talmud. And you need to understand how that affected the trajectory of this country and why so many who are in the governmental roles of control have dual citizenship. They are both citizens of the United States and they are citizens of the state of Israel. And the state of Israel holds dear Zionism and the goddamned Talmud. If you don't know what the fuck they think of you while you support them, you need to open up your goddamned eyes. I mean this. I'm talking to anybody that happens to stumble across this live. Please, open up the Talmud and understand that you are supporting evil. God called them a synagogue of Satan for a fucking reason. Okay, so that was a nice break, huh? Yeah, that's what I do. All right, let's continue. I'm not done. Slave ships and Jews. Oh, I'm just beginning. As a slave entrepreneur, he gambled on the hazards of the voyage, the African supply losses by death in the Middle Passage, and the fluctuating West India markets. Now, let me tell you something, folks. Like, subscribe, and share this live. Let me tell you what's happening, folks. We at the 1 hour mark, because this ain't no joke. We gonna finish it up. I got some folks that told me, where are the slave ships? Where's the proof that they took us from here? How could they take this so many trips back? Because they did. Because that's what they did. How dare you try to dismiss the transatlantic slave trade when there's so much goddamned proof? You want the ships? Let me give you the receipts. During the 14th and 15th century, Jews were dominant as shippers. European Jews, white people that have no association with what they call the Middle East. Khazarians, you understand? Japhites, Caucasians, Neanderthals. European Jews were dominant as shippers, navigators, cartographers, and traders, piloting the seas and exploring for new trade routes and source of commerce, right? No harm, no foul, right? Their money, backed by many exploratory forays, and their equipment and supplies filled many of the ship's holds. By the time they settled in the New World, they had acquired hundreds of vessels to ferry their goods through the Caribbean and South American settlements onto Europe. Do you understand where the ships came from? The Jews, in fact, were the largest ship chandlers in the entire Caribbean region and owned warehouses with inventories to outfit the largest sailing vessels and to make ship repairs. It was written of the Curacao traders that nearly all the navigation was in the hands of the Jews. Where are the ships? How can we go back from ship to where the ships? Shut your goddamned mouths. Sugar was exchanged for kidnapped Africans, an extremely profitable arrangement for the Jews involved in the trade. Slave shipping itself brought an immense return, and there was no comparable endeavor for the profiteer. It was generally agreed, says historian Philip S. Fonia of the 19th century American trade, that it was possible to gain almost $175,000 on a single American voyage, on a single successful voyage. Can you imagine how much that was back then, folks? What bothers me is that alone is worth the risk. On a single voyage, that's millions upon millions back then. $175,000 on a single voyage. And even if this averaged out of 4 trips, the reward was worth the trip, so they could afford to lose stock. We were expendable. Over the side. Get it. This profit potential was readily apparent to the Jews, who concentrated their talents in the shipping trades. So now the foundation has been laid. You know where the ships came from. We know who did the trading. We're going to even get more receipts because this is a foundation they laying. In each of the 5 towns in the original 13 colonies, Newport, New York, and Philadelphia, Charleston, and Savannah, were organized Jewish communities existed in 1776. The Jews were only a small fraction of the population, but the economic life of each, especially in maritime commerce, their share was considerable. Jews have a natural inclination toward this maritime commerce, having been masters of the trade by this time for centuries. And it was, continues Lerse, their place in shipping and ocean commerce that made the Jews a factor in the economic growth of colonial America. Their ships carried the yield of American fields and forests to Europe and brought back to the colonies the textiles, implements, and luxury of the old world. Their complicated steps involving in disposing of cargoes abroad and obtaining return cargoes were greatly facilitated by their friends and relatives in Amsterdam, London, Lisbon, and other European ports who served as their partners and agents. Where did the ships come from? Where did they get the ships from? The slave trade, Negroes back and forth. Well, an advantage which and international people would naturally enjoy. A few ventured into the hazards of preying on enemy merchant ships as licensed privateers, and to some extent, the importation of Negro slaves, nearly all of whom were sold in the West Indies, figured in their transactions. The unspeakable traffic, alas, was not in disrepute. The royalty and nobility of England amassed fortunes from it. The holds of the Holocaust ships were indescribably filthy, and the ship owners assumed a high death rate in transport. Indeed, some of the survivors were close to death upon arrival. Lenny Brenner has written that countless thousands of Africans were brought here in colonial times as slaves by Sephardi Jewish merchant shippers. But Abraham Volson Goodman assures us that that was before the sufferings of the unhappy blacks had excited compassion. I'm trying to figure out what a Negro is doing. I'm trying to figure out what any black person, any person in this country who is descendant of a transatlantic slave trade, how they could consider supporting or even letting Israel come out their mouth. Who cares? Seriously. We're going to go over some more receipts. I would love for you folks to like, subscribe, and share. Listen, I know how I deliver what I say, and I don't give a damn. The question isn't, why are you so passionate about this? The question is, why aren't so many more Negroes informed? They've got us dulled down. They've got us as dull as a spoon. And the choice to get out of this country is coming soon. Don't you forget that. You're going to need every reason to leave. And I believe I got the reasons right here. Jewish-owned slave ships. The following is a partial list of ships that are recorded as having Jewish owners and are known to have transported slaves. So you're grinning and cheesing. You're grinning and cheesing. This list, it must be emphasized, is indeed a partial list. It excludes, for instance, evidence of the transport of slaves by Southern Confederate Moses Cohen Mordecai, who was described as a prominent merchant and probably the largest ship owner in the United States. You supporting them? You grinning and cheesing in their fucking face? There can be no serious doubt that as a Southern shipper from Charleston, he engaged extensively in slave shipping. Also excluded from this list are Abraham Gratis and the Gratis family, who are the recorded owners of at least 26 ships. Where are the ships? Huh? I wish one of you would ask me that stupid ass question again. Ships that they used to ship Africans from the Caribbean and the world. The Jezerin family of Curacao, I hate saying that, alone owned over 100 ships, sailing the seven seas in the 1800s when Jews were masters of the slave trade. Fuck you motherfuckers, man. Straight up, man. Don't smile in my face, man. Don't come ask me to support what you're doing over in Israel. I don't give a damn. Don't talk to me about your people, what happened to them. I don't give a fuck. You feel me? Y'all better wake up, man. They don't want you to know this. Watch this. Certainly much more research is required to assemble a truly representative list, but let's take a look at it. When complete, would be expanded. Let's check it out. Those are the names of the ships, okay? Those are the owners of the ships, okay? What you think we're doing here? How did we get here? Who brought us here? The same people that are demanding that you give them their goddamn support. What are you talking about? Have you lost your goddamn minds? Seriously. I'm asking. You're looking. All right. Partners and agents. An advantage of international naturally avoid. Wait. Did I go up there? Oh, no. I went back up. Let me go down. Jewish-owned slips. Here we go. I went up. I like that. Now, this below-listed ships were owned by Jews who are known to have participated in the slave trade, and the asterisk, I guess, indicates that it's presumed, but let's take a look, shall we? Don't play games, man. Don't play games with me, man. Don't ask me why I have the attitude I got, man. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me that no more, man. What's wrong with you? What are you talking about? Why aren't you where I'm at? What? When privateers seized the ship Pearl, two West Indies Jews, Emmanuel Alvarez and Correa, and Moses Cardozo, the well-known merchant, Abraham Hart of Newport, appeared in the court to guarantee the lawful sailing of their vessel and demanded that it be turned over to them. So they came to court for their property. I mean, what are we doing? Seized slave ships. Owners of some vessels, as well as the financial backers and insurers of the slave expedition, it's difficult to trace until a seized vessel is reclaimed. So wait, let me tell you what that means. They were hiding like a mug. Ownership of some vessels, as well as the financial backers and insurers of slave expeditions, is difficult to trace until a seized vessel is reclaimed. So feel that, folks. The Brown was taken into custody on June 9th, 1856. The owner charged with being engaged in the slave trade. It was bonded by John Levy and Enriquez de Costa. The Orion was seized on June 25th, 1859, bonded by Rudolph Blondenberg. The Charlotte E. Trey arrested on April 24th, 1860. Who bonded him out? Mr. Meyer. What's wrong? Josephine was arrested May 28th and bonded by who? Benjamin. Fuck that. You don't like what I'm saying? Listen to me, man. You think I'm profane? Do you think that I have a foul mouth? Let me tell you what's foul. What happened in the South, that's foul. This is foul. That's profane. I'm just speaking a few names, man. On December 14th, 1722, Louis and Mordecai Gomez petition concerning merchandise and Negroes imported in the ship Greyhound, as they were the agents for the several owners of the cargo saved by the Greyhound. So a couple of Jews came up, and notice that they're Spanish Jews too. Notice the white Spanish Jews. Y'all think the Latinos and Hispanics, those you claim that are associated with Negro fame, you think they're your friends? You better think again. You better think again. It trips me out. It really does. All right, that is the end of that section. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to get into the exploitation of the women yet, because that's a totally different section. I was going to this page. And so I'm going to call the show stop at this stage. Oh, I can find them everywhere I wish. All right, folks, that's it. What do you think? What do you think? So here's the problem I have. We have vocal individuals like Michael Rappaport, like Juliana Maglis, like countless other Jews who think Negroes owe them. They think that we owe them our support. Who the fuck do they think they are? Demanding that Black people show support to the state of Israel. Seriously? You're joking, right? I don't support the Palestinians. They sold us to the state of Israel. I mean, let's just go there. That's what they did. You know, in the long term, in the short term, and that's what happened. Okay? All the nations conspired against Negroes and did what they did. So nobody's clean. Nobody gets away clean. Nobody. Hope you enjoyed today's effort. I really do. I'm very glad to bring it to you. I'm looking for investors to keep the show alive. I would love that to happen, but you know, I'm gonna do what I have to do, and then we'll see. All right. Well, folks, thanks so much for listening to me. My name is Doug Rice. Welcome again, Doug Rice Show. I'm going to be back a bit later. We know. And let me bring up the music. Just love do it right. Bring up the music. What you got for me, AI? Hey, AI. Music, AI. That's what AI is good for. All right, folks, I'm going to rest my voice. Listen, this isn't about hatred. This isn't about any of that. This is about realization. It's about knowledge. It's about how things are. This ain't about me wishing away some fantasy. This is about looking folks square in the eye and knowing our history with them. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't let them lie to you. Don't let them grin you in the face. They haven't helped us. Jews have not helped Negroes. I don't give a damn what they say. All right, that's it. I'm Doug Rice. And I say it. That's what I do. That's why I'm brought to you by Twidware, because that's what I do. Thanks so much, folks, for joining me. Like, subscribe, share, support the effort. You know, I got my PDF store up and rolling. All praises to the Most High God for overviewing this. And again, I'm not a minister. Please don't call me that. I've never said that. Okay, I'm real. All right, I speak real. I'm gonna speak. I'm gonna curse. So that's gonna be part of my verse. So if you don't like it, beat it. All right, that's it. That's all I got. All right, folks. Thanks so much. Thanks for tuning into the show. You have fun. I'll be back later. Because there's news afoot. All right, take it easy, folks. I gotta get out.